Now, Chief Justice Roberts, who authored this opinion, has portrayed it or tried to portray it as a very narrow ruling, but he also gave some sort of really broad sweeps of how courts can look at this and how prosecutors will look at this, that they cannot consider, for example, a president's motives in determining whether or not there's criminal activity. And he also said that, he spoke specifically to Trump about leveraging the DOJ authority to replace
Right,
electors is not prosecutable.
right.
Pressuring Pence to reject electoral votes is not prosecutable. What are your thoughts on the fact that they spoke to specific facts related to Trump, but they also gave sort of broad strokes, ways for the president in the future to potentially get away with things, so to speak, if
So that's
like
a really concerning part of the opinion because it suggests that if President Trump becomes president again and decides to fire Jack Smith, for example, um, that he would be immune to prosecute. First of all, that he would be within his constitutional rights to do that. But first of all, but second of all, that he could not be found guilty for obstruction for doing that. Because one would think that if you fire a special counsel who is investigating you or prosecuting you, that that would be a prime example of obstruction of justice. So, right? But this decision essentially says that Congress doesn't have the authority to create statutes that make the president liable for obstruction if it would cut into his core constitutional powers. And it says that courts don't have the ability to find a president liable for obstruction if he is acting within his core constitutional competence. So that's a really significant, um, strikes a really significant blow against accountability for presidents and says basically that a president can't be found liable for obstruction, at least not as far as any removal of an executive branch official is concerned.
and the court already sort of expanded or narrowed the ability to find obstruction in an earlier ruling related to
The
January.
Fisher case, the Fisher
Correct,
case. So
exactly.
between the Fisher case and this case, that really strikes at the heart of obstruction laws applied to presidents.